The Boeing CH-47 Chinook is an American twin-engine, tandem-rotor heavy-lift helicopter. Its primary roles are troop movement, artillery placement, and battlefield resupply. It has a wide loading ramp at the rear of the fuselage and 3 external cargo hooks. With a top speed of 170 knots, the helicopter is faster than contemporary utility and attack helicopters of the 1960s. The CH-47 is among the heaviest lifting Western helicopters. Its name is from the Native American Chinook people. The Chinook was designed and initially produced by Boeing Vertol in the early 1960s. It is now produced by Boeing Rotorcraft Systems. It is one of the few aircraft of that era, along with the fixed-wing Lockheed C-130 Hercules cargo aircraft, that remain in production and frontline service, with over 1,179 built to date. In late 1956, the United States Department of the Army announced plans to replace the Sikorsky CH-37 Mojave, which was powered by piston engines, with a new, turbine-powered helicopter. Turbine engines were also a key design feature of the smaller UH-1 Huey utility helicopter. Following a design competition, in September 1958, a joint Army-Air Force Source Selection Board recommended that the Army procure the Vertol medium transport helicopter. However, funding for full-scale development was not then available, and the Army vacillated on its design requirements. Some in the Army Aviation Corps thought that the new helicopter should be a light tactical transport aimed at taking over the missions of the old piston-engined H-21 and H-34 helicopters, and consequently capable of carrying about 15 troops. Another faction in the Army Aviation Corps thought that the new helicopter should be much larger to be able to airlift a large artillery piece, and have enough internal space to carry the new MGM-31 Pershing missile system. Vertol began work on a new tandem rotor helicopter designated Vertol Model 107 or V-107 in 1957. In June 1958, the U.S. Army awarded a contract to Vertol for the aircraft under the YHC-1A designation. The YHC-1A had a capacity for 20 troops. 3 were tested by the Army for deriving engineering and operational data. However, the YHC-1A was considered by most of the Army users to be too heavy for the assault role and too light for the transport role. The decision was made to procure a heavier transport helicopter and at the same time upgrade the UH-1 Huey as a tactical troop transport. The YHC-1A would be improved and adopted by the Marines as the CH-46C Knight in 1962. The Army then ordered the larger Model 114 under the designation HC-1B. The pre-production Boeing Vertol YCH-1B made its initial hovering flight on September 21, 1961. In 1962, the HC-1B was redesignated the CH-47A under the 1962 United States Tri-Service Aircraft Designation System. It was named Chinook, which alludes to the Chinook people of the Pacific Northwest. The CH-47 is powered by 2 turboshaft engines, mounted on each side of the helicopter's rear pylon and connected to the rotors by driveshafts. Initial models were fitted with Lycoming T-53 jet engines with a combined rating of 2,200 shaft horsepower. Subsequent versions of the Chinook were configured with improved Lycoming engines and later with General Electric turbines. The counter-rotating rotors eliminate the need for an anti-torque vertical rotor, allowing all power to be used for lift and thrust. The ability to adjust lift in either rotor makes it less sensitive to changes in the center of gravity, important for the cargo lifting role. If one engine fails, the other can drive both rotors. The sizing of the Chinook was directly related to the growth of the Huey and the Army's tacticians' insistence that initial air assaults be built around the squad. The Army pushed for both the Huey and the Chinook, and this focus was responsible for the acceleration of its air mobility effort. The Army finally settled on the larger Chinook as its standard medium transport helicopter, and as of February 1966, 161 aircraft had been delivered to the Army. The 1st Cavalry Division had brought their organic Chinook battalion with them when they arrived in 1965, and a separate aviation medium helicopter company, the 147th, had arrived in Vietnam on November 29, 1965. This latter company was initially placed in direct support of the 1st Infantry Division. The most spectacular mission in Vietnam for the Chinook was the placing of artillery batteries in perilous mountain positions inaccessible by any other means, and then keeping them resupplied with large quantities of ammunition. The 1st Cavalry Division found that its CH-47s were limited to a 7,000-pound payload when operating in the mountains, but could carry an additional 1,000 pounds when operating near the coast. The early Chinook design was limited by its rotor system, which did not permit full use of the installed power, and users were anxious for an improved version which would upgrade this system. As with any new piece of equipment, the Chinook presented a major problem of customer education. Commanders and crew chiefs had to be constantly alert that eager soldiers did not overload the temptingly large cargo compartment. It would be some time before troops would be experts at using sling loads. The Chinook soon proved to be such an invaluable aircraft for artillery movement and heavy logistics that it was seldom used as an assault troop carrier. Some of the Chinook fleet were used for casualty evacuation. Due to the very heavy demand for the helicopters, they were usually overburdened with wounded. Perhaps the most cost-effective use of the Chinook was the recovery of other downed aircraft. The CH-47s are generally armed with a single 7.62mm M60 machine gun on a pintle mount on either side of the machine for self-defense, with stops fitted to keep the gunners from firing into the rotor blades. Dust filters were also added to improve engine reliability. At its peak employment in Vietnam, there were 22 Chinook units in operation. Of the nearly 750 Chinook helicopters in the U.S. and South Vietnam fleets, about 200 were lost in combat or wartime operational accidents. The U.S. Army CH-47s supported the 1st Australian Task Force as required. During the 1970s, the United States and Iran had a strong relationship, in which the Iranian armed forces began to use many American military aircraft, most notably the F-14 Tomcat, as part of a modernization program. After an agreement signed between Boeing and Al-Qadari Meridionale, the Imperial Iranian Air Force purchased 20 Al-Qadari Meridionale-built CH-47CS in 1971. The Imperial Iranian Army Aviation purchased 70 CH-47CS from Al-Qadari Meridionale during the period of 1972 to 1976. In late 1978, Iran placed an order for an additional 50 helicopters with Al-Qadari Meridionale, but that order was cancelled immediately after the revolution. Despite the arms embargo in place upon Iran, it has managed to keep its Chinook fleet operational. In the 1978 Iranian Chinook shootdown, 4 Iranian CH-47CS penetrated 15 to 20 kilometers into Soviet airspace in the Turkmenistan military district. They were intercepted by a MiG-23M, which shot down 1 Chinook, killing 8 crew members, and forced a second one to land. Chinook helicopters were used in efforts by the Imperial Iranian Loyalist forces to resist the 1979 Iranian Revolution. During the war with Iraq, Iran made heavy use of its US-bought equipment and lost at least 8 CH-47s during the 1980 to 1988 period, most notably during a clash on July 15, 1983, where an Iraqi Mirage F-1 destroyed 3 Iranian CH-47s transporting troops to the front line, and on 25 to 26 February 1984, when Iraqi MiG-21 fighters shot down 2 Chinooks.